Today you're going to make your own graph from scratch, right? What I mean by that is you are going to choose a topic to study, collect data, organize it, and then make a graph. All right, and in this video, I'm going to demonstrate that from beginning to end. All right, so obviously the first thing you need to do is choose a topic. The topic I chose, and those of you who were here with me yesterday saw that I ran around the school 3 times and I timed myself. So I was looking at, what was my time? How did my time change from the first time I ran to the last time I ran? Okay. So the first thing you can do once you've chosen your topic is these right here, these purple cards are your directions. I've numbered them 1 through the end and just take them in order, right? So the first step is give the table and columns a title. So over here, I got to title my table. So I'm just going to double click that to highlight it, delete it, and I need to give my table a title. So the title would be, I guess, time it takes to run 1 lap around school. All right, I've also got to give my columns a title. So I need to label my X and my Y. So this would be, this is just my number of laps, right? So lap. And then this column would be the time, right? Time. How did I take that time? Did I do it in hours, minutes? I did it in seconds. So definitely in your graph, tell us, how did you time it? Okay, so I gave my table and my columns title. I can go ahead and delete that one. Now I'm up to number 2. Give the graph a title. Well, put your graph title here. My graph title is going to be pretty similar to this title, right? So let's see. I'll name it the same thing. Time it takes to run 1 lap around school. And you know what I just noticed? I noticed that this is cut off, so I need to actually resize this. There we go. So my whole title fits. All right. Time it takes to run the 1 lap around school. So I gave my graph a title. Moving on to step 3. Collect and enter data. So here's where you take a break from your graph and you're going to go ahead and collect your data. I did this yesterday, and I'll put my data in now. So I ran 3 laps. Lap 1, lap 2, and lap 3. You are going to have 6 data points. I only did 3 because I didn't have time, but you should have all 6 done. And so how long did it take me to run the first lap? It took me 103 seconds. The second lap took me 115 seconds, and the third lap took me 131 seconds. Okay, so I collected and entered my data. Step 3, done. Convert data to coordinate points. So, all right. So let's do that. I'm going to pause this video and I'll do it real quick right here. I'm going to convert these to coordinate points. Okay, so I took my data here. I converted to coordinate points here. Step 4, done. Delete. Moving on to step 5. Give the X and Y axis a title. So what is my X and what is my Y? Well, my X is going to be the lap. And I'm going to resize this, move it to the middle so it looks nice. Label my y-axis. My y-axis is going to be the time in seconds. Time, seconds. Okay. Done with step 5. Moving on to step 6. This is a little small. I'm going to make this a little bigger. Figure out the scale, or the lowest to highest, and the interval. How will your numbers skip count of the x and y axis? Then label them. So here's where I have to figure out my scale and interval. So obviously lap is easy. I'm going to go 0, 1 laps, 2 laps, 3 laps, right? So I'll do that really quickly. To do that, you're going to want to use the text box over here, okay? And if you just click here, so there's 1, and then I can resize it and move it where I need to afterwards, right? So I want it right on this line here. And notice how I skipped a few lines just to give myself some space. I'm going to skip another one. It's only 3 data points, so I have room. So there's 1. Now I skipped 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's where my 2 is going to go. Make it a little smaller. And you can always move these afterwards, right? So don't worry if you don't put it in exactly the right place. There's a 2. All right, and then come on. And then lap 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's where lap 3 is going to go. All right, now you are going to have 6 data points, right? So you're going to have to fill up a lot more space on this x-axis. But there's mine. 1, 2, 3. Now I got to do my y-axis. This is the harder one. So, my lowest is 103. My highest is 131. I don't want to count from like 0. I counted by 5, 10, 15, 20. It's going to take me forever just to get to 103. I don't want to start at like 100 and then just go up to like 135. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take the pen. And remember, I showed you this yesterday. If I want to skip a bunch of numbers, I can do this. And that shows me that I'm going to skip. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my text box again. I'm going to start at 100 right here. 100 seconds. And remember, I can resize this and move it. And I think I'm going to count by 5s. So I'm going to pause this real quick and do that. Okay, so there's my y-axis. I skipped some. I started at 100. I went all the way up to 135. So my interval, or sorry, my scale is 0 to 135. And my interval is, I counted by 5s. And also, do you notice, all these numbers are on the line, right? 105 is on this line. This way, when I say, okay, well, my first lap was, if it was 105, I know exactly where to go. Also notice that I skipped a line between 105 and 110 and between 110 and 115. It just gives me a little more wiggle room, right? For example, if I have 103, well, it's going to be a lot easier for me to find 103 if I've got a little space, right? I kept it neat. I kept it organized. My numbers are all more or less the same. So it's really important on this step to just keep everything organized, because if you mess this up, your graph's going to be off, right? So take your time on step 6. All right, so I made my x-axis, my y-axis, I got my scales and my intervals. Moving on to step 7. Graph your data. Okay, this is the easy part, right? Remember, it's x, y, over, up. So let's see, my first data point is 103. So over 1 and up to 103, which is right around there. All right, next, 2, 115. 2, and then 115 is right there on the line. And then 3, 131. 3 and up to 131, which is right about there. Okay, graph my data. Now remember, you're going to have 6 points. I only had 3. All right, 7, done. Add images to make it look great. So here's where you can kind of like, you know, personalize your graph, make it look cool. So I'm going to pause my video real quick, and I'm going to find some cool pictures. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I added some images. I've got a map of the school with my path around it, some pictures of running, got some stopwatches, and this is pretty much how I was feeling at the end. So, you know, feel free to add pictures, images, drawings, whatever you want, but make sure that you don't make it so crazy that it's hard to read. Okay, so I did step 8. I added images to make it look great. So let's delete that one. And then last step, I've got to answer these 2 questions. So let's see. Number 1, what does your highest data point mean? I'm just going to delete this so I can write here. What does my highest data point mean? So let's see. What does my highest data point mean? Well, it means on lap 3, it took me 131 seconds. So that was my slowest time, right? So I'm just going to say, what does my highest data point mean? For lap, or I'm going to say, let's say, lap 3 took me 131 seconds. Okay, that's basically what my highest data point means, right? It took me 131 seconds. Now, question 2. What's the biggest gap between 2 data points, and why do you think this happened? So let's see. What's my gap here? 103 to 115, 15, 14, 13. So this is the difference of 12 seconds. This is a difference of 16 seconds. So the biggest gap is between points 2 and 3. So I'll delete this. Oh, it's right here, and then I'll delete it. So the biggest gap is between lap 2 and 3. Why do you think this happened? Well, obviously, I was really tired, right? This was my slowest lap because I was really tired. Okay. Now I can go ahead and I can delete the question. I've just got my answer. Save that. And let's see, is there anything else I have to do? Delete. I'm done. Okay, great. I think I did a good job. What do you guys think? Now it's your turn. Follow the steps on those sticky notes and do a great job.